everyone, I'm Lisa Wieben. I'm a riding instructor, somatics practitioner, and an energy medicine practitioner. So I'm here today to talk to you about the last of the 6 centered riding basics, which is clear intent. And as you can see, my dog is joining me today. He decided to sleep in the room with me. So since this is the last of the 6 basics, I thought I'd do a quick overview of all the ones we've covered up to this point. So the first one we looked at was grounding, and that was basically the idea of standing on the ground. So even when you're riding, you still have that feeling of being connected with the earth. Your seat is deep in the saddle, your feet are light in the stirrups but nicely supported as if you're standing on the ground. So, and for that one we used our breathing, which was our next basic that we covered. So breathing, we talked about bringing that breath more into our center rather than breathing up into our chest. So that bringing it down into our center helps us be more grounded, more balanced in the saddle, which we then took into centering. And centering was the idea of having our neutral pelvis. So when we thought about the ball in our center, when we tipped our pelvis forward, the ball rolled forward. When we tipped our pelvis backwards, the ball rolled towards the back. So we're looking at having that ball nicely balanced in our center, and we can do that by using our breath and bringing that ball down nice and low into our center. So when you think about centering, you can almost think about those old punching dolls we used to have as kids where you'd punch them and they'd bounce back up. That's kind of the idea we want to have when we're sitting in the saddle, is if your horse spooks, you want to be able to come back to that neutral position right away. So the other thing I want to talk about when we're thinking of centering and that ball in our center is when our horse does spook, that ball tends to come up. So just like our energy came up, and it's going to bring us up out of the saddle maybe a bit as well, is that ball comes up, so we can use our centering and breathing to bring that ball back down into our center so we have that stability again. So the next concept we looked at was building blocks. And with building blocks, it's just making sure everything's aligned, shoulder, hip, ankle. Your feet are neither too far forward or too far back. You're not leaning forward or leaning back. And you're not going around the corners, leaning into your corners. So all of your building blocks are stacked and in alignment, which makes it a lot easier for your horse to pick you up and carry you forward. So the next concept was soft eyes. And with soft eyes, rather than staring at our horse with hard eyes or staring at a pylon with hard eyes, which brings our focus into one thing, and our body tends to get a little bit of tension. When we use soft eyes, we're bringing in everything around us. We're able to see the letter or the pylon in front of us, but we can bring in awareness of everything around us as well. So the line into our corner we can see, or the other people in the arena riding with us. It's easier to take in where everybody's at when we're using soft eyes. If we're only focused on our horse, it's going to be hard to visualize our path, so we might ride into somebody, or we might have other people coming into us. So we want to be riding with soft eyes, and that brings us back to clear intent, the final of the centered riding basics. So clear intent is basically riding with a plan and a goal in mind. So when you're riding with clear intent, all of your basics are working together to guide your horse. So for example, if your intention is to ride down the center line, so you have that nice half circle onto your center line in a dressage test, your eyes, you're using your soft eyes, you're using your centering and turning from your center. You're keeping all your building blocks aligned. You're breathing. And we're going to turn down the center line. Now our body, our legs are maintaining the horse's position. So we're making sure they're not drifting out. And they're also maintaining our horse's speed and rhythm. And then our hands are also blocking left and right as well. So if we want a perfectly straight line, all of our parts are working together. Our soft eyes are looking ahead to the marker so we know where that straight line is. We're still breathing, because if we stop breathing at any time, our horse is going to start to get a little bit tense. And then as we prepare for that halt at X, we can think of inhaling and then exhaling down into our halt. So we're bringing that ball in our center down a little bit deeper. We're grounding, and we're guiding our horse using all of our centered riding basics. So the idea of clear intent can come into anything you want to do, whether it's you're riding your barrow pattern or a trail course. You're always thinking clear intent. And then another area that this will come up is your training sessions. So when you're going out to the barn to be with your horse, have an idea in mind of what you want to work on, because just going out there with no plan in mind at all can tend to lead to a little wishy-washy riding around the arena, and you're not going to get as much accomplished as if you have an actual plan. So, and we must keep in mind as well that sometimes what we have planned isn't always what we're going to accomplish, because sometimes the horse has the other plans, such as when it's a really windy day or it's snowy and blizzardy outside. There's more sounds and there's more things happening. So we might have to tone down our plan or change the plan altogether and bring it into more of a rebalancing, or bringing his awareness down and just calming the situation. So, and again, even that switch of plan still needs a plan. So we still need to have clear intent, whether it was the first topic that we decided to teach our horse for that day or something different that we had to switch to. There's still a plan in mind of how we're going to go about that. So that brings me to another concept that I'd like to share. This is something I got from a seminar a few years ago, and it's the difference between an expectation and a commitment. So with an expectation, there's something that you want to happen, and when that doesn't happen, something messes that plan up, you're left with an upset. So I'm sure you can remember back to some time when you were upset, and you can look back and say, okay, what was my expectation in that moment? What actually happened? And a really good example of this is going to a horse show. And so you've worked hard all winter, your horse is fit, everything's been going well, you've been riding your patterns or your tests, and everything's been really good, and you have high expectations of what's going to happen at that horse show. And then you get to the horse show and there's something in the ring that your horse spooks at. And all of a sudden, all your expectations are dashed and you're left a little bit upset. So you're leaving the ring and you're not in a very good mood, and your horse is going to feel all that energy. So a different way to think about this is, okay, what's your commitment to your horse every day? So you're committed to building a relationship with your horse that's built on trust and respect, and you want to continue to grow this relationship and have fun. So you go to the horse show with that commitment. Something happens, your horse spooks, you're still left with that commitment at the end of the day. So you're still out to have fun and have a good time, and you just realize that, okay, we haven't done our training around different things that a horse might spook at, so we need to change a few things in the arena more often, or whatever the need may be. So keeping the idea of reducing your expectations and changing them into commitments makes a world of difference.